Hello everyone and welcome back to Synoptic's Weather channel. Today we are going to be taking a look at the latest from the models for the next couple of weeks, which will take us just about into the second week of May. So we're getting there now into the warmer months, or so we say. And now some of you might have been hearing from some certain outlets, tabloids and on other channels about the potential for heatwave conditions, Britain to be bathed in 30-degree temperatures and all these temperatures, 15 degrees for moving into the country, bringing 30-degree temperatures. Now, let's be serious. Is it truth or is it all media hype? Let's go and have a look in today's video. If you find it informative, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I do appreciate your support. We're going to have a proper look and see, is there any chance of these 10 degree ice firms, 30-degree temperatures moving in to end April, which is the main theme or main trend some of the models have been showing, such as this one, which you probably can't see just off screen, but we'll get to that later. But anyway, the trend at the moment is an area of low pressure slipping southwards. That's going to bring rain to central Britain as it clears through this evening and into tomorrow. Looks like quite a wet day, especially for central southern Britain. However, high pressure builds back in by the 24th. Winds returning to a south or southwesterly. So dry, pleasant, fine days, but not ridiculously warm. Into the next week, though, or into the latter part of this week, we do turn more southerly southwesterly, which is going to bring some warmer temperatures up from the south. Now, this has been a trend recently. Low pressure sits to our west, high pressure sits to our east. This is the GFS run, by the way. This is bringing up the wind from a southerly or southeasterly direction, and you can see warm air masses do move northwards, but there's not that much of a pull there. They're going to France, and we stay, pretty mild, but we're not ridiculously warm. It is above average, as you can see. There's a cold plunge going into Western Europe there, or Eastern Europe, I should say. We're obviously on the periphery of that. Actually bringing in mild air, but it's nothing ridiculous. If we have a look at the 2-meter temperatures, I don't know, for Tuesday next week, you can see they're reaching 18s, 19s and 20s, but nothing too ridiculous or out the ordinary, really. You would expect mid to high teens, possibly at this time of year, the end of April into the start of May. If we have a look to the start of May with GFS 12Z run, you can see it begins to drag in actually some cooler air from the east, which is quite rare because May easterlies usually are quite mild and quite nice. But this one is actually with high pressure to our north, with the wind in from the east. There is some slightly cooler air masses to our east on this run, which does bring in, chilly air masses for the time of year. Nothing ridiculous. May limit temperatures to the lower teens, low to mid-teens, and maybe even a few frosts on the 5th of May. That would be quite extraordinary, but probably won't, let's be honest. In the extended range of the GFS 12Z, high pressure remains to our north, and we do continue the wind in from the east. So, pretty cool at the end of the run, or to start May with this one, which I did say there could be a cooler spell, but it won't last too long. But this one definitely shows it. But there's definitely no ridiculous heat wave, 20-30 degree temperatures going on there. My estimate would be mid-teens. Now this is the run which has been bringing all the attention back to the table, this run here. So this is the GM 12Z. This run has been throwing these ridiculous runs out recently. Now, will it do it again? Let's see. This is the 12Z. High pressure's slipping away to our east. Very similar for the next few days for all the models. Pretty good consensus. High pressure's going to slip to our east, but dragging the wind from a southerly or southeasterly direction. But as you can see, there's a much bigger plume of air, hot air coming up from Africa and Spain, and that surges northwards. Proper southerly wind going on there, bringing the 10 degrees through much of the country. Compared to the GFS, that there's no hot air, basically. But the GM brings up the 10-degree ice firm engulfing the country. The 15-degree ice firm is getting into the far southwest. Pretty ridiculous, to be honest, if this did come off. I'm just saying, this is silly. It might, according to the media outlets, but I just don't believe it, to be honest. Maybe it will. Maybe I'll look like a clown. But I just can't believe it because there's no support for it, apart from in the GM ensembles and how trustworthy are they. But you can see, though, on Wednesday the 30th of April, we're bathing in 26 to 28 degree temperatures according to this run. And if we have a look at the midnight run by comparison and go to the 12Z, it's much different. It's still warm at times, but it's nowhere near as ridiculous as this run is, that's for sure. If we do have a look again, 26, 28, you can just see on France it's 30 degrees. It's pretty hot actually. It's pretty hot, and you talk about good temperatures in June if this came off. Now into the longer term with the GEM, high pressure slips to our north, and we do bring in the wind from a northeasterly. But we are still pretty hot there. Well, not pretty hot, but pretty warm. With that warm air still remaining in place. 12 o'clock or midday on Thursday, the 1st of May, 26 degrees in the southwest. Not too bad. Just see those temperatures all the time. Look at that, 10 to 12 degrees above average. You just can't see it happening, can you? Let's be honest. Now, finally, we'll move on to the ECMWF, see if that shows the same trend. Now, this was bringing in the 10 degree ice firm a few days ago, but it seems to have backed off. Again, high pressure slips to our east, and we do bring in a southerly or southwesterly wind to begin next week. But you can see that hot air or warm air is much further south over Spain. It does get dragged further northwards slightly. We do get the 10 degree ice into the far southeast, but it barely gets in and barely has any sort of impact. But it's a much different synoptic pattern. Low pressures to our east on Monday the 28th, high pressures to our east, low pressures to our west, winds are in from a southerly direction. But it's nothing ridiculous. The air masses again are above average, but they're not, 10 degrees above average sort of thing. It's nothing too severe. In the longer term, it turns cooler. High pressure begins to bridge in the Atlantic. Low pressure slips towards Scandinavia, and winds do turn into more of a northwesterly, and we actually turn cooler than average at the end of this run. So, pretty crazy temperature swings from the models being indicated here as well. Now, if we have a look at the GFS ensembles, the best way to see if there's outliers is with the ensemble runs. And as you can see, if this is for Barnsley, we'll have a look at London in a moment. But we are slightly below average at the moment. We are going to go above average, no doubt about that, between around the 25th and the 25th of April and the 2nd of May, I'd say. There's pretty good modelled consensus for that. There's literally 2 runs for South Yorkshire, Central Britain seeing the 10 degree ice firm. So very, very, very unlikely, and definitely I would say media hype. You've got to watch out these days. There's so much stuff going around, but we're factual over here. We're not doing any of that sort of stuff. Only when it's winter and I get to say my snow bombs on the way. No, I'm joking. But you can see there isn't much support for it at all, which the GM run showing. If we look at the GM actually and have a look at that run, you can see a few of the runs are with it. One of them's even getting up to the 15 degree isotherm for Barnsley, South Yorkshire, which is pretty ridiculous. But you can see it is at the top of the range. Equally so, there's some cooler runs in there. So, you can't always take it too literally. It could just be having an off day, having an absolute wobble. Look at London. It does bring in the 15 degree isotherm for London just about. So, we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe the GM models are just a bit wrong. They sometimes are. They're not always right. The models aren't always to be trusted. If we have a look then at the ECM 6-week look-ahead charts, I'll have a look at these very quickly and briefly. I just want to see what it is showing for the temperature anomalies for that week. So we're going to start then by looking at the 28th of April to the 5th of May. Perfect, we can see that week, which the run is showing the ridiculous temperatures for the GEM because it was about the 1st of May. You can see high pressures over the top of the country, keeping us quite dry, settled, and probably quite mild. Temperature anomalies are 1 to 3 degrees above average. Some slight patchy 3 to 6 degrees, but nothing like 10 to 12 degrees above average at all. The second week is the 5th to the 12th of May. Low pressures to the south. You'd expect high pressures to be to our north, away to the north. That's where they bring in the wind from an Atlantic flow. And if we have a look at the 500 millibar heights, yeah, pretty much. High pressures out to our west, low pressures to our south, and winds are in from the west. So pretty Atlantic driven. Temperatures probably above average. But the signal is weakening. So yeah, it definitely looks like it was media hype, but you never know, it could come off, I guess, Let's see how the ECM compares, the ECM ensembles compare. If we go to the 12Z, on the midnight run, I should say, yeah, there's literally no runs going for it. If we have a look at London, there's a couple there, if we have a look here. There's a couple, but they are in the massive minority, so on this one I would call rubbish. But we'll have to wait and see. You never know, they might be right, but I just can't see it happening. Thank you all very much for tuning in to today's video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye, everyone.